Hello everybody and welcome to Section 1 exam overview of our AWS Solutions Architect course. And in this section I'm going to be talking about the course a little bit, what you're in store for, the contents, and a little bit about myself. So without further ado, this is me, Michael Sheehy. I'm a fully certified AWS Solutions Architect. And that's my license number there if you want to check out. I really am certified, and I've recently founded 2 cloud training sites. This site that you're on now, Cloud Certification Training, which is an online training site specifically dedicated to cloud certifications, and also a live training site, which is where I conduct live training in Sydney, Australia. So if you live in Sydney or if you're close by, check out that site, drop me a line, and we can get you involved in some live one-on-one, well, not necessarily one-on-one, but class training. I've also worked for Cloud Academy, which is an online training site. I created a whole lot of quizzes on most AWS services, wrote a lot of blogs, tutorials, and ebooks, and I wrote an ebook on how to pass the AWS Solutions Architect course. And if you want to check out some of my blogs at Cloud Academy, that's the link down there at the bottom. My opinion, I think this course is currently the best available course out there for helping you pass the AWS Solutions Architect Associate Certification exam. The reason being, the whole course has been put together with the one sole purpose of helping you pass this exam. Nothing in this course isn't in there that you don't need, let's say again, nothing in this course is excess, which I have stated there, meaning that the material in the course is there because it might appear in the exam. Stuff isn't in here just because it relates to AWS or an AWS service. It's specifically in here because it may possibly be in the exam. So I'll go through a lot of things that you don't need to know first, which, the CLI, for example. Okay, as you go through the course, you will see these little icons pop up now and again. Just probably important just to take a note of at the beginning of what they actually will mean, because I have done them again to help you pass the exam. And the first thing is a percentage sign. You'll see in each section, it'll be up in this top corner up here. It says as you go through, if you see 10%, it means that this section you're doing relates 10% of the exam. So it's not super important if you see 10%. If you see 60%, it is obviously a little bit more important. And one of the sections in designing highly scalable systems is 60%, and it's the crux of the exam. Relates a lot to VPC, the virtual private cloud. Things marked as important will be specifically something that you should obviously pay special attention to, and it's a topic that needs to be learned in order to pass the exam. The remember stick it note is similar, but you probably see that in questions that we pop up every now and again. And it is a big hint for you. If there's a question that has remember on it, remember it. Remember the question, remember the answer. It's a possibility that that very same question or a very similar question will be in the exam. If you see crosses on certain material, it means it's something you don't need to worry about. So I'll go through a few of those at the beginning. It's in there for the sole purpose of helping you not waste time studying on some of these concepts. And a big tick means obviously it's important. It's in the AWS blueprint and you need to understand the concept. Okay, so here's an outline of the course, and I think this gives you a good idea of what you're in for and a good idea of why I think this is the best course there is available for passing the Solutions Architect exam. The exam overview we've talked about it briefly. This is what we're talking about now, part B, about this course, and after this we'll get on to what you don't need to know, and then on to what you really need to know. Just brief outlines once again. Then we get into the nitty-gritty. Section 2, 60% of the exam, very, very important. It's got an important post-it note next to it, and it's designing highly available, cost-efficient, fault-tolerant, scalable systems. Another way to say that is VPC, Virtual Private Cloud. The most important thing to pass in this exam. So we're going to spend a lot of time on these concepts, and by the end of this course you will understand all of these. I won't go through them one by one at the moment, but you can read through those. But basically all this relates to designing your own VPC. And I'd also like to make the point that rather than just trying to commit all this to memory, the best way to understand something like this is to build your own network. So the wonderful thing about AWS, if you don't already know, is it's easy just to spin up instances and turn them off again at the end of the day. So you could play around with all this stuff, try and build your own virtual private cloud network, put on network interfaces, elastic load balancing, auto scaling, all of this fun stuff, make a ton of mistakes, rip it down at the end of the day, hardly cost you anything, then start again the next day. Keep doing that over and over, and pretty soon you will have VPC under control. Section 3, we get into implementation and deployment. One point I'd like to stress is a lot of this crosses over. Example here, like EC2 and S3, although I have them under implementation and deployment, they can also, and they are important to designing highly available systems. So, but it is a lot of this, it just crosses over. It's nebulous, meaning it's all interconnected, so it's very hard just to put it into a easy format, but I think this is the best there is. But just don't get confused by, if you see S3 and it has 10% next to it, then it's not important. S3 is important, and it might appear as a question in the exam around the design area. I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, drop us a line. I'll try and explain it a little better. Data security, moving over here to section 4, important, and I want to tell you about, and we will go in later, the shared security responsibility model. They love putting a question in the exam regarding that. Important concept, and we will take you through that. Everything else is also very important, but it's just a giveaway question. If you can understand that, it's not that hard to commit to memory, and you'll get a question on it, I'm pretty sure. Now, having gone through all that and setting up the structure of this course by sort of trying to pick out the good things that are in the AWS blueprint and getting them in a more coherent, easy to understand list like I've done here, I realized there was a few services that I'd missed. So after we go through all this, the designing, the implementation, the data security, we will go on to some other things that don't appear here, and they are listed here: databases, other storage options, so on and so forth. And also there'll be lots of questions thrown in along the way, and I might show you, actually I might just jump forward and show you an example of one of the questions. Okay, so here's an example of the question format that you'll see throughout the course, and so after we cover certain topics, you will see a question that will pop up surrounding that topic, There's a lot of other courses out there that I've seen that they'll go through certain concepts and explain them very well, and then you'll see 5 or 6 questions which don't even relate to the material they've just talked about. Nevertheless, our questions are not like that. Any question you see relates to the material that we've just talked about. So an example here is you've just launched an instance into a VPC private subnet. All security, NACL and routing definitions are configured correctly. Which of the listed answers is the correct step needed if you now want to configure a new custom NAT instance? So I won't give you the answer. You'll have to get further on in the course, or actually buy the course to get the answer to this question. But yeah, just wanted to give you an idea of how our questions look. I think they're pretty cool. And also we have an exam which we think is the best exam, well, the best exam simulation as it relates to the Solutions Architect exam, meaning it is the same number of questions as the AWS exam, 55, and we have a timer there. It's 80 minutes, and you can take the exam as many times as you want. So I would suggest go through all this material on the course, take the exam, get your mark, see how you go, and see where you're lacking. Go back, do the course again, do the exam again. That's what I suggest. Okay, let's get on to what you don't need to know. So hopefully this will save you a bit of time. You won't go away and start studying up on services that are a waste of time for passing the exam. Again, an important note is what I just said. Most discussions around this exam seem to focus on what you need to study to pass and how you should go about it, which is fair enough. However, I believe that it can be useful to spend some time talking about what you don't have to know, just to save yourself some time and effort. So the first thing is the AWS command line interface. A good tool, very important tool, and as per the AWS documentation, it's a unified tool to manage your AWS services. Just one tool to download and configure. You can control multiple AWS services from the command line and automate them through scripts. Fantastic stuff. However, won't see a question like this in the AWS exam. It won't see what's this command do, what's this parameter mean, nothing like that. So forget about it, don't bother learning it if your sole purpose is to pass the exam. I mean, it is a very important tool, and if you're working on AWS every day, then obviously it is something you need to learn. Mobile services. Here's the list of the current mobile services that AWS have. SDKs down here are probably very important for the DevOps exam, but the only thing you really need to worry about is the SNS, the Simple Notification Service. And enterprise applications such as Amazon Workspaces, Amazon WAM, WorkDocs, WorkMail. Again, don't worry about them. Cross them off the list. Lambda and Code Deploy. Again, probably very good for DevOps people to learn for the exam, but for Solutions Architect, no need to worry about it. CloudFormation templates. Okay, so CloudFormation templates, they're a service that helps you model your resources so that you can spend less time managing those resources and more time focusing on your applications. You can read all that if you want. Pause the video. I won't read it verbatim. It's a JSON text file, and the next slide will show you what it looks like. Now, if you look at that and you freak out going, I don't know that, don't worry. you don't need to. I think I might have seen it in the SysOps exam, but for this Solutions Architect, no need to worry. You do need to know what CloudFormation is and how it differs from other services, other deployment services such as Beanstalk and OpsWorks. But yeah, don't worry about the structure of it and what this all means. Okay, that's the end of what you don't need to know. Now, more importantly, is what you do need to know. So there is a blog on the Cloud Certification Training site that I have garnered this information from, and there should be a link there's the link there, but there will be a link at the bottom of this bit on this where this video appears on the page. So I'm going to go through certain areas, or all the services. And services, if you ever look at the AWS documentation, the services are broken, services are split up into, or combined into certain areas. Like the compute area has all these services. They have others as well, but I haven't listed them here if they're not important to the exam. So in the compute area, you need to understand auto scaling, EC2, Beanstalk, load balancing, and most importantly, VPC, Virtual Private Cloud. Also, if you find, when you go to this blog, you'll be able to click on these links to the FAQs for each service, and there's also a documentation link for each service. And over here I have put the importance I think each service relates to in the exam. For example, VPC, 5 little fire things, meaning very, very important. Elastic Beanstalk, not that important. You get the idea. Networking, again, VPC appears here. 5 fires, I think they're fires. Also Direct Connect, load balancing, Amazon, Route 53. Management tools, these are all the management tools that you'll need to understand, and we will go through those. Security and identity. Security, especially around IAM, is a very important facet of the Solutions Architect exam. Mobile services, as I talked about before, the only thing you have to worry about in that area is SNS. Storage and content delivery, very important aspect of AWS, and these are the ones you need to concern yourself with surrounding this exam. S3 probably being the most important. There seems to be a lot of questions pop up on S3, which we will get to and go through. Databases, there's a lot of database possibilities on AWS. These are the ones that will be in the exam, or possibly will be in the exam. Consequently, these are the ones we will talk about throughout this course. Application services. I think I might have included SNS again in an application service when it's really a mobile service, but we will sort that out later on. Important thing is we'll go through these briefly. They're not super duper important, however occasionally you'll see a question pop up on 1, 2, 3 of these maybe, and it's very important to understand the differences between them all.